Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to Counselor's Couch 101. I'm Jim Stump, and appreciate your comments and your emails. It helps me to know what you're thinking and what you're interested in. You know, I mention a lot of truisms to the people I talk with, just little things I've learned through life and through doing this career and etc. And one of them I like to tell people is, I only know one expert on your life, and it ain't me. Everybody is so unique. I've said before, we have influences that get passed down generationally in the family. We have influences from our culture and the area in which we live, the people we associate with, the groups and organizations that we attend, etc. The teams we support, right? We get a lot of download from all of that, but we are truly unique individuals. Human behavior has a lot of commonality. Yes, it does. And that's what allows us to do this work at all, is that we can build on that which we learn as we study and as we experience the career itself and working with more and more people. But still, everyone is unique, and that's the fun part of it, to find out who someone is truly. And oftentimes we have to break through barriers for that client to feel comfortable enough to admit who they really are, right? Maybe they've been going around telling everybody that they like a particular ball team, when the truth of the matter is they don't like them at all, but they can't say it because they live in a particular town, and they don't want to get the negative backwash from admitting they support someone else, or at least that they like someone else. That's a big one. Another big one, which I don't discuss and try to stay far away from as far as voicing my opinions, of course, is politics. You know, we just don't talk about it because there's so many times we drive people away by holding forth with an opinion. And what should happen is we should be able to discuss anything and share ideas and learn and grow from each other. It's been said many, many times. Most of us want the same goals in life, right? We want peace in our country. We want livable wages. We want breathable air. We want affordable food and gasoline, etc., etc. Where we differ is on how to achieve those goals. And we can benefit by discussing them and listening to each other's ideas. Oftentimes, we can be convinced by someone coming up with a great idea, someone who doesn't necessarily agree with you on other things, but that's okay. And like I say, I don't discuss politics except to say that we should be able to talk about it without becoming adversaries. Let's put it that way. I know that a lot of people told me they've lost a lot of friends because of political differences, and they try hard not to, but somehow it happens regardless, right? I guess it's the people who won't let go of their point of view and won't entertain anyone else's thoughts or ideas that cause the trouble. That's my guess, but I'm just guessing. But it's fascinating to learn why people believe, what they believe, and why they believe it. Where did it come from? And to examine it. And oftentimes, I said I didn't want to talk about politics, and here I'm talking about it. Oftentimes, I'll just ask people questions about their beliefs and why they believe it, because I'm trying to understand them. And then we see where it comes from. And, one of the fascinating things about this process is not politics, but counseling and discussing and learning who someone is. Oftentimes, people don't realize all the things they think or believe, or they don't know where they came from either. And when they examine them, they put them out in the open, they look at them in the light of the sun, and they say, you know something? I know I just said that, and there's some sort of an emotional tie to that. That's my language, not theirs. Um, but I don't really believe that. It's just the way it came out. It's not what I truly believe. And at that point, you can see them change. People can change on a dime or on a sentence or on a thought once they recognize what's going on. And what they truly are recognizing is what's going on in them. Maybe they have some sort of a hurt that's driving a behavior or a belief or something, and it's not working for them anymore. Or maybe they realize that they need to let go of that hurt simply because they want to be more open to a greater number of people. And like that, maybe they want to be more successful in personal relationships or in business or in anything else. So they have to recognize what they're thinking and why, and make the changes they want to make. There's the flip side too. When we go through that process, a lot of people can become more firm in their beliefs. They look at it, they examine it, and they say, you know something, I've been thinking that all along, but I need to be able to stand up for that. I need to be able to say that out loud, and not necessarily talking about politics. It could be anything. um, but anyway, I'm not the expert on someone's life. That person is. And it is really fascinating and adventuresome to explore that. And we both discover what the person believes by discussing various things that come up in conversation with that person. I've said it before, I say it again. All roads lead to Rome. If you sit down with a person and just start talking, all of the relevant issues will come up. And by relevant issues, I mean the things that drive that person's behavior and decision making. The things that truly direct who they are and how they behave in the world, right? Oftentimes, like I said a minute ago, the person, him or herself, doesn't know that they're doing it, but they are aware that they do certain things and they hadn't stopped to consider why they do it. And if it's working for them and it's successful, then double down on it, do more of it. If it's not working, we change it to whatever it is going to be more in keeping with where you want to go and who you want to be. But the process is fascinating. It's also the way you can heal hurts in relationships, is to get to know the other person. I don't care if you've been married to them or not. You can find out new things about people your entire life, right? I've heard the expression from husbands taking a lifetime to get to know their wives. I don't know if wives do that. Maybe they do. If you do, ladies, well, put it in a comment and let me know, or send me an email. Does it take forever to get to know somebody? And do we ever truly know them fully? Maybe not. And I suspect part of the reason that if we don't understand somebody fully, it's because that person is sitting on some of those feelings, thoughts, and drives, those things that make their behaviors. Maybe they don't even know what they are. That's the kind of stuff that comes up when you go into deep issues in counseling. When you create such safety and you create such memory and connection to the things that created the beliefs and the behaviors, those experiences, if you can find those and, like I've said before, wash the sentiment away and let it see the light of day, then you really get to know someone and the person gets to know themselves better. And that's a strength, know thyself. I believe that was written on the walls of some Greek city that was covered in volcanic ash. Know yourself. A wise thing to do. Someone said the unexamined life is not worth living. Well, I don't know if that's entirely true, but part of it, there's a kernel of truth in it. Understand ourselves and why we do what we do, and be in control of it. Don't let it control you. Often, the category that people call anger pops up. And I've said to you before, and I really believe it, the word anger really covers a lot of different emotions that people don't identify. They just call it anger. It could be depression. It could be annoyance. It could be pain. It could be disillusionment. It could be resentment. It could be hundreds of things, right? But people just say, I'm angry. And if we can get below that umbrellaed word and find out what's below it, we can uncover what's driving that behavior. And people usually can drop off the negativity, the weight of whatever they're carrying around and they're not wanting to realize or recognize. And when they do that, they feel lighter, they're happier in the world. They smile more, they say hello to people more often. They're more joyful, they're having a better time. And the things that they've already been doing that maybe they weren't quite satisfied with, they don't seem so difficult anymore. People are able to cope because they remember why they're there, right? One of the biggest complaints I run into, people's telling me that they don't like their jobs, they don't like their careers, but they don't think they can change, right? By the way, as a side note, Someone once said, and I don't know if it's true, but I believe it probably is mostly true, that Americans often change their entire careers 4 or 5 times in a lifetime. 4 or 5 different careers, not just jobs, but careers, right? And why is that? Maybe because they took that job as far as it would go in terms of what they could benefit from it in education and income and etc. and whatever advantages or benefits the job has to offer. And then they're looking for something else. Oftentimes, people who work in offices want to find employment that takes them out of doors because they're tired of looking at the same walls and breathing the stale air. So they go look for something else. And then after living with that for a while, they make another decision. But like I was saying a minute ago, I like to find out what brought the person to the decision of the job in the first place, right? Why is someone in a job that for 20 years or so, and they now tell me they hate the job and they wish they could quit, but they can't afford it? What brought them to that point? Because I'm sure there were circumstances, there were things that needed to be done, incomes need to be made, etc., etc. And they made their best decision at the time, and they ended up in the career they ended up in. That doesn't mean they can't change it, but at least they understand it. And when people figure out why they're there and why they're where they are and why, it's easier to do the job. Most of the time, people say, I'm here to support my family. It's a very common and a very basic sort of a drive for looking for a job or a career or income. Support a family. Sometimes I'm talking to folks and they realize that that's what they came for, and that the job they're in and the career they say they don't like provides them with a pretty darn good lifestyle, and they decide that it's okay to stay with it because of that lifestyle. It's a benefit they want to keep, and at that point they get happier, right? And they start looking for other ways to enjoy their lives, other things they can do besides work and career. But all of that, once again, it's about discovering who someone is and why they do what they do, and helping the person discover those things within that person that that person isn't even aware of. That is really fascinating. I've been asked why I do this, and I've decided I should do a post on that pretty soon, just to update anyone who's interested in it. Um, I'm not the type of person who wants to go around talking about myself, but every once in a while somebody wants to know who the heck they're talking to, and you have to sort of explain how you got here. And I've talked to a lot of counselors, and once again, all the counselors I've met, except for a very, very few who started at a very, very young age, most people got here through some backwards or sideways entrance. They were doing something else, and it brought them to a point that brought them to a point, and they ended up doing counseling, right? Oftentimes, you find the ones who started very, very young get a PhD very, very young, and then they get the life experience afterwards. I remember as a graduate student being in a psychology class with a professor from UCLA. And he told the story. He said when he was interning, he was assigned, he was a Caucasian Jewish man from Los Angeles, and he was assigned an African American woman who was 50 years old, who was from the South and moved up to the Los Angeles area because her family brought her, and they were looking for better economic opportunity and all that. She lived in a less than affluent part of town, and she was having a lot of difficulties in her life. And the professor, who was probably 20 at the time, was sitting in the room, and he said something to the lady about, what you want to talk about? How can I help you? And finally, the lady who wasn't talking, she was pretty much sitting across from him, sort of frowning and looking unhappy. And she said to him, "You can't help me." And this professor, who had another 20 to 25 years of education and experience in counseling before I heard him speak, he said to the class, he said, "She was right. I couldn't help her because I was 20 years old and I had no idea what she had been through, right? No idea whatsoever. I could not appreciate the things she had to go to bring her to that room and all the unhappiness that was written all over her face. Now, at this point, some of you, I hope you're thinking and following along, you might say to yourself, okay, then, how can any counselor help anybody, right? Because we are all different. We've all had different experiences. If someone hasn't had the exact same experience as you have had, how can they help you? Well, here's the thing, and here's the secret. If a counselor, say myself, if I don't know a client, I don't know the client's background, I don't know what they've come through because I didn't live it, and I can't identify with it. The way I can help that client is if the client teaches me who they are and how they came to be who they are. If they will teach me who they are, then possibly I can help them. If I can't, I will tell them the truth that I can't help them. And I will recommend someone else who might be better able to assist them in whatever's going on with them. But if they will educate me as to who they are and what they feel, then we have something to go from. At that point, I know the groundwork. I know the field that we're talking about. I know the issues that are at play and affecting that client. And after that client educates me, we can discuss about the issues that possibly could help that client. And that's what I mean by I only know one expert on someone's life. Ain't me. But it sure is fascinating to learn. Thanks for stopping by. I look forward to talking with you next time.